Whenever my student is isolated, I will help. Why? Because it's good education. But if I'm the teacher and the weakest who do, I save, she thought. Ogino, 26 years old, Class 2C and teaches biology. Her homeroom had students who weren't disciplined. She was at the front of the room telling the class she will take attendance. The students were just chatting, and she continued talking. Someone told her to shut up, and someone told them to play a shooting game on her. She began talking again, and someone threw paper at her. Tanabe shot paper at her and fell onto a desk. He wonders who sat there and mentions it's the girl that never shows up. In the staff room, Ogino walked to her desk. Sitting down while every teacher was talking, she was writing. She does one thing every day, and that is sending letters to the student that never shows up, thinking it's the only time she can be an ideal teacher. Ogino was writing lots of lies about her class and wrote down they miss whoever that didn't come. She knew it was a lie and that they shouldn't come there. Yoarashi was the student, and she was fine if she didn't know how miserable she was. The next day, Ogino was at the lockers and found a letter inside one. Yoarashi replied, and Ogino wondered why. She immediately rushed to her class and looked at the empty desk. Peering through the door, the desk was empty. Believing a friend sent it, someone's foot was at the door. A student passed by, and she was confused. She told Class 2C good morning and proceeded to write on the board. Her name was Yoarashi, and she was pleased to meet them all. People started gossiping about her being in their class last year. Mizusawa was looking at them curiously, standing up and putting her arm around Ogino, telling her to introduce herself to Yoarashi. Mizusawa encourages her to call Ogino Sludge. The class all said Sludge. Ogino was lost in her thoughts, thinking it's over. She thought she crushed her courage to attend school, but Yoarashi asked where her seat was. Ogino told her, and she went there. People had their eyes on her. Ogino thought about all the lies she wrote in the letters, thinking she is despised now. In the washroom, she was sitting on the toilet muttering words. She thought Yoarashi would make an enemy out of her and was disappointed. Ogino opened the letter, wanting to know her reply. She thought her writing was cute, but before she could read it, waste fell on her and drenched the letter. Mizusawa told her cleaning was done and you have to clean dirt with water. Someone asked if Mizusawa took a photo, which she did. She was screaming with joy, saying Sludge was clean now. They both left the washroom while Ogino wondered what the letter said. Yoarashi was also in the washroom. Ogino told her it wasn't how it looked. Yoarashi was washing her hands and told her she was drenched and would get a cold. Ogino asked why she came to school. Before she got a response, she gave her a handkerchief and then left. Mizusawa was looking at her phone, thinking it was a perfect picture. Mizusawa posted it to her group chat and would get positive comments. She was looking forward to creating content with her as Sludge, but someone in a black bunny costume appeared and whacked her head with a metal bat. Mizusawa was knocked out cold, and the person grabbed her, calling her heavy. At night, Ogino was at her desk working, but she saw a note on her desk. It was Yoarashi saying 8 p.m. at the school's pool. She went to the pool and saw the lights. The pool had junk inside of it, and she thought it smelled. Panting was heard from the pool. Mizusawa was trapped in the water. Ogino threw her coat and ran through all the junk. She grabbed Mizusawa from the water, and she was conscious. Ogino asked what she was doing, and Mizusawa was sobbing, saying she thought she was going to die. She didn't know who did that, and her face was throbbing. It was the black rabbit saying that, and she was thrown into the water. A splash noise was heard, and the unknown person said, Sludge must be cleaned. Mizusawa described the person and didn't know anything after she was thrown. Mizusawa asked why she came there, and Ogino replied, telling her the lights were on. Facing the other direction, Mizusawa said she would have died without her. Ogino reached her shoulder and told Mizusawa her name. Mizusawa was confused, and Ogino said they should contact the police and parents. Mizusawa had an outburst saying she'll get bullied if seen in that state. Mizusawa left in a vehicle, and Ogino went back to the scene. Yoarashi on top of a ledge called out her name. Ogino questioned her about what she did. Yoarashi, with a big grin, said she did drop Mizusawa into the pool. She threw all Ogino's letters on the floor and came down. Yoarashi knew that a bully-free class doesn't exist. She wanted to see one and reached towards Ogino's chin. She wanted to know what a bully-free class would look like. Yoarashi told her teacher that the reason she came to class was to save her. 3 years had passed when she passed her teaching exam, going back to alma mater as a biology teacher. A granny told her it would be a busy year. The dream of being important in a student's life was a painful one. But she was okay. She couldn't leave her ideals, thus she wrote to the student who never came. Believing it was a sin. Ogino apologized for calling Yoarashi during lunch. She told her that black shirts weren't allowed and Yoarashi would fix that. She held her ear and told Ogino she wouldn't fix this. Ogino was asking about the pool, but Yoarashi interrupted. She asked if Ogino wanted to stay like this. She mocked her, saying, "I was bullied and beaten by people in my class, not only as a teacher, but as a human." Ogino didn't want revenge. Huh? Yoarashi asked. Ogino said the students were enjoying themselves, and if she is getting treated poorly, it didn't matter because she's an adult. She considered herself as a sacrificial lamb. Ogino asked her to stop putting her students in danger, which she complied. "This waiter isn't cute," Yoarashi said while looking at a phone. Ogino said, "Huh?" Yoarashi mentions her passcode was easy to crack because it was her birthday as her code. Ogino yelled, saying it was her phone. She was baffled that without permission she took it. Yoarashi registered her contacts and would call her every night. Ogino countered, saying personal interactions like this weren't allowed, but Yoarashi said she would send her letters every day. As Ogino was writing things on the board, she was thinking, was it okay to stay like this? She was fine, that if Mizusawa changes, the reality is the class won't change. Outside, Tanabe was asked to pass the ball. He was staring at Mizusawa. He went up to her and said she didn't look too good. She said it was none of their business and asked if they were related to yesterday's incident. He said they drenched sludge and she darkened. She told them Ogino was her name. Laughing it off, he tried to grab Mizusawa, but she knocked back his arm. She stood up and walked away, saying she can't. A friend of Tanabe said he wasn't dumped yet. Tanabe asked if they were thirsty, and he needed a distraction. Someone was lecturing Ogino, saying it was a lack of guidance for a student to finally show up but wearing black. The granny didn't want to hear any excuses but said she wore a uniform during her first year. Ogino thought of how Yoarashi acted before. The staff meeting commenced. The vice principal explained the preparations of the school event. She asked if anything needed help with anything or something to change. A dude slammed the table and said he wanted to talk about Ogino's status in Class C. He said Class 2C is a state where they can't control themselves. He passionately said it wasn't her fault and their class should be evaluated by the whole school. A dick-riding teacher said as expected. Everyone gossiped about his words and he gave Ogino comforting words. She thought there was justice after all. But is there justice? She left the room and was called sludge. The three dudes from earlier wanted juice. Calling her cute, eventually down rows of stairs they had their juice and kicked Ogino down. One of the boys was baffled she didn't defend herself. He said they'll sue her if she touches them. Tanabe said she couldn't disobey them and then punched her. She knew when her face was swollen she could not sleep well. At the top of the stairs, the male teacher from earlier was there. She asked for help, but he turned the other direction. She raised her hand up, but she got kneed in the stomach. While she got folded, she realized he just wanted to be praised. They thought sending a photo of sludge to Mizusawa would cheer her up. Phones were constantly taking photos. Yoarashi appeared within her mind and she questioned if she was going to stay like that. "What a pain! It's all broken now," she said. A chair hit one of the bullies. He was confused. A bat slammed the floor and all eyes went towards it. A creepy aura was coming from the masked black person. Before he knew it, he got hit. Tanabe was trying to converse, but the bully got another hit. Ogino was watching this all unfold. The person used their bat to choke hold Tanabe by the wall. He mustered a few words but tried to run. A final hit was landed. It was just Ogino and Yoarashi with Tanabe running up the stairs. Ogino and Yoarashi was left. Ogino told her she was the worst and she should have gotten up and protected them. She couldn't move, but on the contrary, she admired Yoarashi. Yoarashi agreed they should destroy the entire school and remake it. She thought her sin was sending letters to Yoarashi, but instead, that wasn't it. Her biggest sin was reaching her hand out. The next day, a random girl went up to Yoarashi and asked for her Instagram or Twitter. She shook her head, saying she did not have any of them. The girl stomped back, asking for juice from her pals. People questioned if Yoarashi was like this last year. Ogino stepped into the room. She spotted the 3 desks empty. Someone asked where Tanabe was. He didn't get any reply, but Ogino knew they were taking the day off. Without a doubt. Later on, Ogino tried to get her bike, but accidentally knocked over the entire row of bikes. She bent down to pick them all up, but a hand helped her. It was Yoarashi saying her luck was terrible. She looked at her fingering, saying it got pinched. She asked to ride with her, which got declined. Ogino was scared after yesterday, thinking she should have gotten hit. Yoarashi took care of them, but instead of protecting them, she wanted to see more. She thought a teacher wanting revenge was not ideal. Yoarashi said she was kind, but ideals wouldn't change the students. Instead, pain and fear would. Class 2C didn't know anything, and pain would solve that. As a teacher, she should have taught them that. It wasn't revenge, but rather education. Yoarashi was just a teacher lending a hand to Ogino. Yoarashi reached her hand out, telling her she just wanted to see her smile. Finally, Yoarashi reached her house and said goodnight to Ogino, mumbling afterwards, "It's the teacher that decides how to educate." In the hallways, Ogino was thinking hard about education, but that monkey bumped into her. Falling, she dropped her books. He looked like he had a bad day. But Ogino thought he protected her and said that out loud. She was expecting help when she was getting hit, and she didn't blame him. He told her to shut up, asking if she could help him, then stepping on her hand. He was startled when she talked to him, saying he's unable to read the mind of an idiot, telling her to quit teaching, and then he's using her to score points. Helping her was a joke, and that she's an adult and has to solve her own issues. Two girls called out the teacher's name. He looks back and they told him they're filming a ball game. He sucked up to the girls, acting like a great guy. While Ogino was picking up her papers, she knew reprinting those papers was mandatory. Yoarashi came out of nowhere and asked if it hurt. She said they had to make her understand, and she had a good idea of what to do. She pulled out her phone, shining it towards her. 6 images were selected, and Yoarashi asked what they were going to do with this, having a big grin on her face. Ogino was trembling and reached towards the phone. That monkey was blushing at the videos with the girls. He entered his class and received dark looks. He told everyone to sit and restated the rules. People were crying as well as giving him bad looks. A boy asked if this was his secret account. The boy asked what he meant by these rude remarks. He was confused about who did this. A girl screamed that he said he would marry her, and this was unforgivable. The teacher confiscated the boy's phone, but he snatched it right back. This causes him to fall straight to the ground, and everyone was looking at him like an outcast he was. He noticed Ogino behind him, trying to laugh off what occurred. Ogino grabbed his hand and told him the same words the other teacher said to her. Everyone was looking at the male teacher with hatred. Ogino forgot to tell Yoarashi something. Everyone took photos of the teacher, and Ogino said thank you. Yoarashi was smiling. At Class 2C, everyone was just chatting, and Ogino entered the room. They noticed Sludge was there, and Ogino saw her desk. She grabbed it up and said they can't do that. Her dream was to be a teacher who can see eye to eye with a student. She was afraid before, but it was different now. She now was able to see their faces. Yoarashi and Ogino were both eating their lunch. Yoarashi asked if she made her own lunches. She said it was just leftovers, and she was supposed to only get a bite. Yoarashi looked happy, telling Ogino she looked brighter than before. She said Shinohara was suspended. The Board of Education had to keep silent, and she was able to scold her students. She was able to use her power as a teacher. Ogino thanked her. Yoarashi said Class 2C is well behaved now and that she doesn't need her help now. Yoarashi said, "Wonderful. You're too naive. This is where education begins. Class 2C is only submissive because they don't know how to truly act. Some students would push her to the extreme and they need to grip them." Yoarashi found an opening to steal food and continued to talk, saying she's the worst enemy before putting food in her mouth. Ogino thought she was happy for her, but someone called her name. It was Mizusawa, and she wanted to learn about biology. Mizusawa was embarrassed to say that she tried the practice problems but couldn't do it herself. After all, she lost her textbook. But in reality, she threw it away. Ogino would give her supplementary classes after school and lended her a biology textbook and wanted her to try the problems with the book, then ask questions. Mizusawa stated she would get first in the biology quiz before leaving. Ogino thought it was a dream for Mizusawa to change, and Class 2C will change. While she was walking about, someone slowly called out her name. A black-haired girl with ponytails asked to talk with her. In a room, she was offered candy and declined. Hoashi Kira was the name of the girl, and she said a rule was, grumpiness is a sin. She called her out for not feeling well, but she wouldn't say anything online. Mizusawa was frightened and tried to say something, but Hoashi said it hurt that she was avoiding her. Hoashi was arguing while another girl grabbed the book, asking what that was and if she was flirting with Sludge. Mizusawa really wanted the book back and told them she will not be calling her Sludge anymore. She exclaimed her almost death situation that occurred. And Ogino saved her, or she would have died. Huashi slowly lost her cool as the story progressed until she broke her pocky. Huashi said it was all Sludge's fault to make her students like her. Mizusawa was about to defend her, but Huashi said, "You're persistent on not saying sludge." Huashi threatened her that she will be called sludge if she won't call her sludge. For the first time, Mizusawa felt fear. Huashi was just joking and went close to her. She said, "Rule number 2 is sludge is their toy and their entertainment." Huashi then said it was entertaining what Sludge did to that table. She asked her to call Sludge over. She also lent a box cutter to her and said, "I would love to see you hurt her." Was their relationship really more important? Ogino was busy marking her biology papers and remembered Yoarashi's words. Mizusawa was walking to the classroom. The lab was empty and she called out her name. After no response, the room was shaking. She could feel something walking behind her. Turning around, Ogino finished her study guide to give to Mizusawa, but the black rabbit was here.